Hey everyone, it's Stacy with Nutrition Jobs. Welcome back to another edition of Dietitian Career Success. I am bringing back another guest by popular demand. I have with us today Christie Hunter. Hi, Christie.
Hi.
It's so good to have you back. You talked with us a while back, actually, probably almost a year ago, talking to us about corporate nutrition, corporate wellness, and how to provide that for companies and how to source information on that. There'll be a link to finding that video interview because you provided huge amount of value, lots of helpful success and pearls that everyone really resonated with, really benefited from and learned from. So I'm so thankful for you giving us your time today. So we're going to talk a little bit about something different today. And we're going to talk a little bit about private practice and working as a private practice dietitian, running a private practice as a dietitian, and then also working for a private practice that's been established as a dietitian. So maybe you can give us a little background on your businesses, what you do, start wherever you want.
Sure. So I have always been in corporate wellness. That was kind of my first job out of college and out of my internship. And then I was offered this opportunity to start a private practice by a dietitian who specialized in eating disorders. And she saw that there was a need for non-eating disorder related nutrition. And so she encouraged me to start my practice. And I was going to do that as a side hustle. And that was 14 years ago. And it quickly became very successful, and I had a lot of referrals, and I was able to build that business such that I was able to quit the job that I loved and really focus on my private practice. And then it kind of grew from there, and I was able to hire another dietitian within year 3. And here I am now hiring for my fifth dietitian, and I have a two admin support staff. So it has really taken off, and I never ever dreamed it would be this way, but I really enjoy it. And one of my biggest prides is to offer jobs to other female dietitians in my area that are all working moms and to be able to kind of provide that work-life balance.
Ooh, Christy, I'm such a huge fan of you and your business acumen and your success that you've had over the years. We've known each other for a while, and I always just love talking to you because you are such a go-getter and you really make things happen. Tell us what it's like to, so you're in North Carolina. Tell us what it's like to the process of running your own private practice. How do you get your referrals for your patients?
So the biggest thing that I would say for my referrals is insurance. So I accept insurance in our practice, and that has been a really big marketing piece and a big driver for our success. I would say that 95% of our business comes from insurance payers. So we're credentialed with all the major commercial insurances in North Carolina, and we're very lucky because we've had some really big movers and shakers and people that have paved the way ahead of me here in North Carolina to fight for really good reimbursement rates and coverage. And so our rates are really good here in North Carolina. And I continue to fight that fight on the state level to make sure that we maintain that. And so, biggest thing is to be able to accept insurance because it's just something that people are paying for already with their health insurance premiums. And with the coverage that is provided now, um, they don't have to have a copay. They don't have to pay co-insurance for most of their services. And so it's just a win-win. And so even in a tough economy, you can have business because the insurance is covering it. And I find that that is a really big way to market the services and to be successful with private practice.
So you're saying that your referrals then come from not just the physician's offices that might refer a patient over to your practice, but you're saying that you're actually showing up on the insurance provider list so that the patient themselves, maybe they've been diagnosed with diabetes or gestational diabetes, whatever it might be, and then they see on their provider list that you're a practice that accepts their insurance. Is that how they're actually finding you?
Yes, so insurance directories are really popular for our searches. And then just when you do a Google search for dietitian, then we pop up and then they see that it's covered by their insurance. And
Ooh.
so then what happens is, right, if you think about it, you Most people get their insurance, right, from their employer. So when you have a service that is great and provided and preventative for you, and you have to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Stacey, I got to duck out because I got an appointment today with my dietitian," right? And then you come back and you say, "Oh my gosh, did I tell you my appointment with my dietitian was wonderful? And guess what? It's covered by insurance, Stacey. You should go see a dietitian too." And so then you tell your coworkers, right, about it. And even if you don't feel comfortable sharing it at your work site, you're going to tell your friends, you're going to be at a party, you're going to say something about, "I just changed what I'm eating because I met with my dietitian. Oh, and did you know it's covered by insurance?" And then they're going to say, "What? Oh, I have Blue Cross and Blue Shield too, so I should check into that." And so it really, truly, once you accept insurance and you have those conversations within your circles, it really does spread word of mouth, and employer groups, friends, families, church communities. That's a big way for people to find out about you.
Okay, you're making it sound really easy. I know that you've laid a lot of groundwork both for the state and also some of the work that you've done to even show up on those insurance directories. But sort of like laying the groundwork for then a lot of dietitians are either accepting insurance or they're not. They're doing maybe a coaching process or getting first party payment versus the third party payment from the insurance company. Like what's a week in the life of you trying to work through all those insurance claims? Is that something that's easy, or is that something that you've got a system down for it, or are there not so great days? How does that work?
Well, about the time that you think you have a system worked, right? There's going to be somebody's going to throw a kink in there, right? And we are credentialed with all the major insurance providers. So the chances of all of them running smoothly is pretty slim to none, right? So inevitably, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to change it. Somebody's going to, change up the coverage, reduce the pay rate. There's going to be an issue, and you have to stay on top of it. That's the biggest thing. Is that if I was trying to run this practice and also see a full-time client load, these things would not be caught in a timely fashion. But for example, there was an insurance issue that popped up yesterday. I saw it first thing yesterday because I noticed that it was a decrease in payment. I was already like checking into it yesterday afternoon. This morning, don't you know, I'm like sending out some blasting emails to the insurance people that I have their information saying, "What's the deal?" I'm contacting people at the state level saying, "Did you know?" Because it looks like it's not just going to affect me. So if it's not affecting me, I'm sure other dietitians aren't seeing it timely like I am, aren't aware that this is something that is maybe statewide that's changing, and then not sure who to contact. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on the phone, get on an email, start blasting out people, finding out what's going on, and trying to see if we can reverse that sooner than later. And sometimes I'm successful, and honestly, sometimes I'm not. And you have to figure out, inevitably that, "Oh, well, this is the new rate and it's going to be like this for a year." And so then you're like, "Okay, I'm going to mark my calendar. And a year from now, I'm going to make sure to fight the fight sooner and see what we can do to make this change happen
And
and to
you,
get other people involved."
yeah, and you say a year because that's sort of the contract of each insurance and what the reimbursement is.
Yes, and certain ones we kind of know the pattern, right? We know when they're going to start changing our rates. And it all tends to kind of reflect off of what's happening with the Medicare rates. So we just heard that the
Mhm.
Medicare reimbursement rates are going down. So we can pretty much assume that all of our major insurance carriers are going to kind of follow suit. So you got to make sure to stay on top of that, be prepared, have your documentation ready to fight the fight and justify why you shouldn't get paid more, or why you shouldn't
Yeah.
get paid less, and fight the fight for saying that you should get paid more. And some insurance providers will do that. Like they set the rate statewide and say, "Nope, this is what we've decided we're going to pay all North Carolina dietitians." And some will say it's an individual. And so you have to, renegotiate your rate individually. And just staying on top of that, right, Stacey? I mean, that's a full-time job, is like just being on top of that. And so that's the part of my job that I don't like. I would
Right.
much rather be out marketing and talking to people. And so what you have to do when you're kind of running this practice is kind of silo your time. And you have to say, like, "Okay, Monday's going to be my time when I'm looking at the money aspect and what are we getting paid? What do I need to settle up on?" Tuesday I'm going to be out marketing. So I'm going to put all that on pause. I'm going to be out marketing. I'm going to meet people. Then I'm going to meet with my team members and making sure they're happy, do that on certain days. So you really have many different hats to wear. And if you're trying to flip that switch like hourly, it's hard.
It's
And
hard.
so I have found that if I do it in chunks of time, if I'm on that momentum of networking, let's go ahead and keep that momentum going. And let's hit this, let's do this, let's meet with this person, go visit this doctor's office, create this newsletter, all of those things while I'm in that zone.
I like that batch working. I work like that as well. Dedicated days for certain tasks that are sort of inherent in running a business. How do you stay up to date with what they're paying? It sounds like you're just looking to see what the reimbursement rate is. But when you mentioned Medicare and that the rate for this next year is less, how do you stay up to date? Does the Academy help you with that, or do you have any resources that you can share?
Well, so as I mentioned, I'm on the state level. We have in North Carolina a insurance reimbursement committee as part of our North Carolina A&D group. And so that kind of helps me stay up to date with that. I'm a part of that committee. And as much as I have tried to scale myself back on social media, um, Facebook groups are really good about sharing like, what they're seeing, what other people are seeing as far as insurance and kind of keeping you up to date on the pulse. I'm not a Medicare provider, so that's normally something that I wouldn't see on my radar. But because I know it impacts the other, trickle down effect, then yeah, I'm going to see that and kind of look into that and kind of have that on my radar. So as much as I've tried to get off Facebook, and it just is really helpful for these kinds of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So I'm hearing less about medical nutrition therapy and sitting down with the patient, and more about business, which I love. I love running my business. I love all of the aspects that go into being an entrepreneur. But it takes a lot of time, right? Like there is certainly a delineation between how much creativity you can enjoy as a practitioner, and then how much it just takes to run your business, paying your taxes, or training your employees, or training your consultants, or keeping up to speed, or looking at the big picture of like how do you want it to go, the business to go forward in the next 6 months, 3 months, whatever it might be. So I think you're making a really good case for, there's a couple different ways that someone can work as a dietitian, and that is to have your own private practice, or you can work for an established private practice. So maybe just tell us some of the benefits of both ends, or specifically being able to work for an established private practice.
Sure. So here's one of the things, and I can say this because I've done that, right? When I first started my business, it was me. So when the clients were calling and inquiring about it, I was having to return those calls, right? And then when an insurance claim was denied, I had to call the insurance company and sit on hold forever and ever and ever and try to figure it out and figure out why it was denied. And then if it was saying, oh, well, that person didn't have coverage, then I had to call the client back and try to like be the money collector and chase after the money. Well, that is spending all of that time, right? Doing things that most dietitians don't like to do. We just want to educate. We want to talk to people. We want to make change happen. And so, what's nice is if you come step in and to start working into an established practice, you don't have to make the phone calls. You don't have to chase down the money. You don't have to worry about the insurance claims. All of that stuff has already been established for you. And so I think sometimes that if you know for a fact that you are not a good business person, you, for example, have trouble running your own finances, then you're fair to admit to yourself, right? To say, This isn't for me. I would do much better to just go and work for somebody else." Or to say, "I don't want to put that much time and effort running a business. I would much rather just walk in, know that I can see clients and get paid for my time, and then walk away."
I was going to say, paid for your time right away, right? Like there's not this
Yes.
lag of building up your business as an entrepreneur that takes a long time. It takes a long time to like turn your first buck. So that's a really compelling element. I know you always have open position. Well, not always, but you often have open positions for dietitians to come join your well-run private practice. So maybe we can skip ahead a little bit, and from the lens of a dietitian, whether whether they're new or seasoned, looking at working for a private practice, for your private practice. Let's talk a little bit about the application process.
Sure.
Tell me about the resume. Like what type when you get a pile of resumes on your desk, what's something that's sort of important or stands out to you for somebody who wants to work for an established private practice?
I am going to look for counseling experience, number one, right? And whether that come in a volunteer's job, whether that come from a paid job, I want to see that they have had some kind of counseling experience. And the other thing that I look at is longevity
Mhm.
of their role, right? And so I am going to invest into you and put a lot of time, money, and effort into you being on my team. And so I want to make sure that you value loyalty. That's important to me. And so if you are a part of my team and you have a track record of only staying at jobs 1 year, maybe 1.5, 2 years, that to me does not mean that I want to make that investment into you. So I'm looking for those types of things, counseling and longevity, really on the resume part.
I love that. That's really helpful. All right, let's say you've got some great candidates. They come in for an interview. Tell us how someone can stand out during the interview process to be a successful candidate.
So I've recently been hiring, and so I have done quite a few kind of screening things and interviews. And I will tell you that I know that maybe some people think it is old school to do a cover letter,
Mm.
but very far and few between candidates these days do a cover letter. And I really appreciate a cover letter.
Me
I
too.
recently had a candidate because in this cover letter, it explained to me why they were looking for this job. What are their values? What are they looking for? And to me, that stood out because that is something that really showed that personal side. So that was great. The other thing is, after the interview, if you take time to follow up with me with an email, that speaks volumes to say
Mm.
thank you. And again, I'm not expecting like a bouquet of flowers sent my way, but like I just to me, when you think about a private practice, right? I think you have to look at any kind of um relationship based experience you've had in your life, right? So whether that be somebody that has taught you how to play a musical instrument, whether that is somebody that has taught you, done a personal training for you, right? That person established rapport with you, made you want to come back. They really connected with you. They showed that they were invested in you. And so that is what I'm looking for in a candidate. And so when that candidate shows up to my interview and hasn't done the research to find out what we do, has no clue, is talking about maybe a service that we don't even offer, that to me shows they haven't put in the time to research my company. Then, if they're on the interview and they are not making eye contact, they're fidgeting with something else. If they're going to do that to me, they're absolutely going to do that to the client,
Yeah,
right?
those are
And
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, and to me, that is what makes the client come back is they feel special. They feel like they've been heard. They feel like the person's really listening to them. So I want to make sure that in my interview that that person is valuing me the same that they would a client and doing all of those things.
Yeah. I like how you said that. So I'll just summarize it that the interview actually is a mirror for what they might be like in a patient dietitian relationship when they're doing the nutrition counseling. So I love that. That's like a great insight. Thank you notes and cover letters like that really shows that you are going the extra mile and then really engaging and understanding what the business is about, what your practice is about, or what company it is that you're working wanting to work with, like having that understanding. That's just like showing up, right? It's like really helpful, and I find that really valuable. It's something that I like to share with other dietitians as well, whether you're a brand new dietitian or whether you're a seasoned dietitian or you're a second career or going back after spending some time with taking care of family. I think all of those things are super helpful, they are sort of under talked about. But I
Absolutely.
totally believe that they can make the difference. They're just very subtle differences that can really make the difference in the end, whether or not you get the position. Because for the most part, a lot of dietitians have very similar technical knowledge. There might be some differences in there, but for the most part, they're all going to have somewhat of a similar education background or skill set. And who you are, how you show up as that snowflake that you are, can really make the difference in putting forth a good impression, or just showing that you're going to be a great person to work with. So I appreciate all those tidbits as
Yeah.
well, all of our listeners. The other thing I always have this question about is dietitians and how much money we're making, what our compensation is, how we can earn more. Tell us a little bit about how people can be successful in general when they are offered a position and then the salary negotiation starts to happen. Are there tips that you found successful for yourself or for others that you can share with everybody?
Sure, this is great. So, with these kind of positions, right, you're going to be offered, hopefully benefits and compensation, right? But if you don't need to take all the benefits,
Mm.
right, that can be a negotiation piece. So, for example, for a private practice, healthcare insurance is very expensive. And so I offer that because of the fact that I need that in order to be competitive with other employer groups, right? But if you're not going to take that, if you don't need that because you have insurance elsewhere, then that absolutely can be a negotiation piece. And so that's something that most people don't think about. But again, I am planning on spending money for you for health insurance, which is going to cost me at least a couple $100 a month, right? And so if you don't need that, then that could be a way to negotiate that.
That's genius. No one's ever mentioned that. That is genius, actually. And then that can sort of compound, whether it's with your practice or another person's practice. So when someone's making a 3% raise, cost of living raise, like that gets compounded, right? So
Right.
that's really helpful versus like a bonus, or as you said, an actual health insurance compensation. So
Yeah.
that's really oh, Christy, always providing great
Yeah.
tidbits.
Another
Um,
thing to think about too is that I've had candidates apply that are working 60 to 70 hours a week in their current jobs, right? And you can't translate that to private practice, right? Because there is no way somebody can do 60 to 70 hours worth of private practice work because the burnout would be so high, right? You're almost limited in a private practice role to about 20 to 25 billable hours, okay, a week. So if you think about that, that's all that the practice can bill for your services. But we're going to have to pay you more than that, because if we were to look at the hourly rate of what that would equate to, it wouldn't be that great. So some of the things that I would say to look at too when it goes to compensation is if you are doing a job that you are working a lot of hours and you are getting paid really great for that. But if you look at your what you would average out that hourly rate to be, to compare that to a private practice, it probably would be about the same, right? And so sometimes you can't put a price tag on work-life balance.
mm.
And if you are valuing that, then I think private practice might be the way to go. If you are in a clinical position or a food service position where you're working a lot of long hours, maybe, and or you're unhappy with your manager, or you have to work weekends and you have a family and you don't want to miss all the stuff on the weekends, then private practice might be a really good way for you to go. But just know that we can't compete salary wise sometimes with some of those bigger companies, because they can bill for much higher services. So at that point, I would say to take a look at what that work life balance means to you and to be willing to kind of settle in for a smaller salary just to kind of balance that out.
That's a really, really astute observation because you're right. I worked as a clinical nutrition manager at least 70 hours a week, and it was really hard. It was long hours, unpredictable hours, stuck there. Either maybe there was a tray line malfunction or something
Right.
with an employee, or someone called in sick. Maybe it's a dietitian, maybe it was a diet tech, food service worker. Like there was always something. And I struggled with that job. That was really hard. I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I really wanted different types of hours, flexibility, and to be able to really own my own time. So that's an amazing and excellent observation. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just to not take it personal, right? Just because I would love to say that your worth is worth $500 an hour, right? Like that I could pay you that kind of rate. But again, we are locked in. When you look at the fact that what we do is bound by insurance companies, right? And just like I said, they change year to year, they change across the board according to the payer. And so I'm locked in. I can't pay you more than what they are paying me. And unfortunately, it's not like the other world where you're assuming that each year you're going to get an increase. Maybe it's a 3 to 4% increase in what you get paid. That's not how the insurance world works. And so, as much as I would love to offer these amazing, amazing salaries, I just can't. I mean, I'm going to try to make it as attractive as I can and as competitive as I can. But just know that if you're coming to me and you're going to say, I want to make $200,000 a year, I'm going to tell you that's not going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah, it's just the math. It's just the math on what the reimbursement is in running a business. So yeah, I think that's I think as long as there's some transparency in that and understanding with the person who is interviewing for the position, I think that's super helpful.
Yeah. And to look at like when you are comparing, if you're comparing jobs, to really look and compare apples to apples, right? Because again, knowing that you are going to have a burnout factor. And just so everybody kind of has an idea about a full-time dietitian in private practice, a full-time caseload would be 20 to 25 clients a week, right? So if you're looking at another job that is going to pay you by client and they are guaranteeing you this really great salary, right? I want you to do the math and figure out how many sessions that means you would have to hold a week. And to just kind of caution you to say, that might be the case of what you can get paid, but you are going to burn out so fast.
Within a week, you'll burn out.
Absolutely.
That's hard work. I did outpatient nutrition counseling as well for our hospital system. And man, it is really hard to have, 6, 8 patients a day. Yeah.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah. Christy, this was super, super helpful. I know that you have an open position now, and I will provide a link for our listeners to be able to find you, learn more about it, and hopefully they can check out your opportunity. You'd be a really great boss to work for, and I hope you all can investigate that. I think it would be really fun to interview with Christy. And then also, we'll give some links to previous videos that you've had and some other resources that you have. So, Christy, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much. And yeah, come join our team. We'd love to have you. North Carolina is a great place to live. We are out where we are located. It's about 3 hours to the coast and 2 hours to the mountains. So it's a great place to live. And like I said, we're doing some trailblazing things here. So come be one of the trailblazing dietitians.
Yeah, you have great opportunities there. Thank you, Christy. Bye for
Thank
now,
you.
everyone.
Bye.